Hello and welcome to As Built, the podcast from Graphic Machine about architecture firms, buildings, and how both get built. I am your co-host, Patience Jones. With me is
Brian Jones,
your other co-host. Thank you for joining us. Today, we are calling this episode Panic is Not a Marketing Strategy. I feel like that's pretty clear. It's probably not going to be a lot of surprises what this episode is about.
Panic!
Yeah, it's not a marketing strategy.
Yes.
That's the working thesis.
Yeah.
So what inspired this?
Well, I think that anytime there's any upheaval within a firm, there might be economic circumstances that are impacting a firm. There's a tendency to want to act quick and swiftly. And that what can become systemic within a firm is that this is the only. So one of the things that can happen in a firm is that you may end up in a situation where this just becomes, you move from one panic move to another panic move to another panic move, and you're constantly course correcting, and that there is no long-term strategy. It's more just like, we found ourselves in this situation. What are we going to do? And you're down to the wire and you have a day to make a decision and everything has to fall in line immediately. You can imagine that this might not yield a terribly inviting environment to work in. And also it can make the finances of the firm go up and down pretty dramatically. And even in the best planned situations, you can find yourself in a number of different economic conditions. But trying to put yourself in the best position where you don't have that happen, panic is certainly not your best friend.
It is not. Panic is terrible. It's bad for your health. It's bad for, as you so aptly put out, your bottom line. It's bad for your culture. But I think we have somehow as a society adopted, and I think this has been true since like we were kids, there's this kind of cinematic archetype of a busy professional or a successful, thriving business. And it centers on panic. If you think about even just like the movie The Devil Wears Prada, what's the first based around panic? Miranda Priestley's coming back to the office early. Oh my God, gird your loins. Everybody do what you need to do. Crush panic. And this is at the magazine that is not Vogue. Very successful. We have seen movies about newspapers and record companies and manufacturing companies and everything, TV shows, everything our entire lives that has told us the more successful you are, the more panic you'll have in your business. And this is a sign that you're thriving because you're in panic mode. And that could not be farther from the truth. It makes for a great narrative in a movie or a show or a podcast. Day-to-day life.
Horrifying.
Quite literally kill you.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah. And I think also it gets to the larger thing that a methodical and planned out strategy for developing business does not make for good television. It just doesn't.
It doesn't. No one wants to watch that. No one wants to do it in real life, much less watch it for 3 hours on TV.
Yeah.
It would be the most boring show.
Yeah.
It's why they don't have like the Great British Marketing Strategy Planning Session show.
Yeah.
Like, it's not exciting.
No. But what it yields is something that is tangible when you have something that's planned out, that you know how to adapt when conditions don't quite work out the way that you thought that they were going to, and that you can keep your wits about you as things. And that's the reason to do this, is for no other reason, for selfish ones, is to make it so that your life can be a little less painful.
I mean, wouldn't it be nice if you knew where all your project photos were and how to find them? If you knew where all your project templates were and how to get them updated quickly? If you knew the schedule of RFPs? If you knew that you had enough postage stamps to send out whatever you need to send out, like all the things that can cause those, oh my God, moments at the most inopportune times.
But let's talk a little bit about how we get there. So one of the main reasons that a firm may find itself in a panic-driven strategy is because the foundational elements have not been put in place along the way. And so at the moment that they find themselves having to pivot or make a new inroad somewhere, they have none of the systems in place in order to make that. So not only is it that they're adapting in the moment, but they're also having to do all the work that should have been done months ago leading up to this moment and it makes it doubly as painful, if not more so. And that's because there's sort of an intrinsic desire that when things are going well, that we don't allocate resources towards future development. It's just something that we do as people sometimes. But that's where we have to fight a little bit against our lizard brain and say, here's how we need to plan for the future. Maybe we only allocate 20% of our resources time-wise to helping further those foundational elements. But by the time we get to this moment where this future moment that we can't predict, PS, that we will have pieces in place to help us navigate that more easily, and it will be a lot less painful.
Well, there's something that I thought of when you were talking about pivoting too. I think, and I am very guilty of this, and I will share an example, but the point is when you pivot or you change anything as a firm, it is imperative that you either account for that in your larger strategy or your processes, or you make a note and assign somebody the task of going back and updating this. So, a not terribly important but illustrative example is when I'm really busy working on stuff and I have to save a document, I save it to my desktop. And I know that everyone out there who does anything with computers is like burning me in effigy right now. I get that. It's a terrible practice. And it's dumb because I could save it to the right folder on the server, but I hear myself saying this. I don't want to take the time. I don't want to take those extra second and a half that it would take me to do that or to set up a new folder in the server. I tell myself all the time, put it on the desktop, you'll deal with it later. And lo and behold, about 2 months in, I've got 90 items on my desktop in a folder labeled unhelpfully desktop, and I can't get to them remotely because they're on my desktop. And I have to spend like 3 hours going through and putting them in folders and organizing things. And I swear up and down, I'm never going to do it again. And I do it again. I do it all the time. And I think that is what also happens. It's like, well, we have these new project photos that just came in and they're replacing the project photos that we had before because these have better landscaping. Well, I don't want to take the time. I don't think I have the time to put them in the right folders. I just need to get them into this RFP that's going out this afternoon. So I'm going to put them in this other folder because that's where I can easily access them. And I'm the one doing the RFP. And now I've got them out the door, which solves your temporary problem.
Sure.
But the next time you need those photos, you can't remember where they are. Nobody else can access them. They end up using the old photos because they don't know that the new ones exist.
Sure.
This gets compounded by the number of things that you're doing in a day. So you don't necessarily have to take the time right then as you're trying to get the RFP out the door to correctly save and categorize all the project photos. What you need to do, though, is make a task for yourself or assign it to somebody else right then. So that work will get done and it won't languish and it won't compound so that you're facing 6 months of stuff that isn't in the right place and you don't know what you have.
And I think it's such a great illustration of what to do next, which is to put systems in place for yourself, because I think that is the key to combating this. I think that's very helpful. It is something that everybody does. Everybody has these things that we might put off. We think, oh, that'll get taken care of later. Well, the truth is that if you don't take care of it in the moment, sometimes you may forget details that were really important to organizing. So I can't stress enough how important it is to have some of this foundational elements in place. So maybe it's folder structures, maybe it's a process for where things get saved, maybe it's like language,
calendars,
exactly,
yeah.
Any number of things, but they're not terribly appealing items in life, but they are so essential. And the goal is to avoid a panic-laden existence, which I think can sometimes follow marketing, where you have a last-minute request. Let's take about the most positive outcome. You have a last-minute request for a proposal that came in, and you have 0 of the pieces in place to be ready for it. So what should be a couple-hour exercise becomes an all-night affair because these foundational elements are in place. They're essential to the growth of your business.
And your future self, you will always assume your future self has more time than they ever will.
They have less.
Yes. Your present self will never, ever have as much time as you thought they would when they were your future self.
Yeah.
So when you tell yourself that little lie of, well, I'll do this later because I won't have these 18 things on my plate. You won't have these 18 things. You'll have a different 18 things or a different 16 things. Just do it now.
Yep.
Do it a little bit, or at least make the note that you have to do it later or assign it to somebody else.
And the incremental steps is critical. You may not be able to do everything right then, but you can take at least the first step towards making it a better place for yourself down the road and continuing to take those steps day in and day out.
Yes, because otherwise you will forget. And then the reason you remember is because you're in another panic situation.
I don't know. There's something about a tortoise and a hare that comes to mind, but I don't know if that's relevant or not.
The hare had a panic attack and ended up in the hospital. And then the tortoise was like, I win. That's how that story goes.
That is how that story goes. Any other takeaways from this episode?
No, except to just sort of reinforce that the panic, in all seriousness, is not good for your health. It's not good for your individual health. It's not good for physical or mental. It's not good for the health of the studio. It's not good for your employees' health. And people do have heart attacks about things like this, and they have strokes, and they abuse all manner of substances, and they just sort of collapse after a while. We were not designed as people to operate in a state of continual panic. And if that is the atmosphere that has been inadvertently created at your firm, it really behooves you to start taking some steps to undo that.
And it shows in the work too, on a much less level, which is like your work will suffer for it too. Absolutely.
It can't not, because all of the creative thinking power is being diverted to, it's a crisis situation. Yep. And panic. You may think that your work is more inspired or better because it comes out of this really rough environment, but it's not.
Nope.
It's just that you've lost the ability to see that because you are in a constant state of panic.
And this has become normal.
Yeah. Yeah. When the panic gets normalized, that's when firms start to see mass exodus of people. They start to not get jobs, including from clients that they've been working with for years.
And it's difficult to attract new talent.
Yeah. Yep. Because people can tell. They can tell when they walk into your space what the vibe is. And it can all be not that way. So,
or at least significantly less.
Yeah. There will be days. There will be days and there will be times, and that's the nature of business. But when it's your everyday, all the time, or the sign that you're quote unquote doing well or killing it, like you are in fact killing it, except literally. Yeah. You are killing your people and your firm. So yeah, panic is for the disco,
only
not the architecture firm.
There you go.
Yes. Thank you for joining us. Everybody, take a deep breath and exhale and have a wonderful day. And we will see you next time.